Kirstjen Nielsen resigns as Trump's Homeland Security Secretary. Washington. Kirstjen Nielsen, the Homeland Security Secretary, resigned on Sunday after meeting with President Trump, ending a tumultuous tenure in charge of the Border Security Agency that had made her the target of the president's criticism. "I have determined that it is the right time for me to step aside," Ms. Nielsen said in a resignation letter. "I hope that the next." Ms. Nielsen had requested the meeting to plan a way forward at the border, in part thinking she could have a reasoned conversation with Mr. Trump about the role, according to 3 people familiar with the meeting. She came prepared. Mr. Trump in recent weeks had asked Ms. Nielsen to close the ports of entry along the border and to stop accepting asylum seekers, which Ms. Nielsen found ineffective and inappropriate. While the move comes just 2 days after Mr. Trump, who has repeatedly expressed anger at a rise in migrants at the southwestern border, to run Immigration and Customs Enforcement because he wanted the agency to go in a tougher direction. Mr. Trump has ratcheted up his anti-immigration message in recent months as he seeks to galvanize supporters before the 2020 election, shutting down the government and then declaring a national emergency to secure funding to build a border wall, cutting aid to Central American countries and repeatedly denouncing what he believes is a crisis of migrants trying to enter the country. He took aim again Sunday night after announcing Ms. Nielsen's departure. "Our country is full." Ms. Nielsen plans to stay on as secretary through Wednesday in order to assist with an orderly transition. The abruptness was, the president said in a tweet, that Kevin McAleenan, the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, would take over as the acting replacement for Ms. Nielsen, who became the 6th secretary to lead the agency in late 2017. But by law, among the possible replacements for Ms. Nielsen in the long term is Ken Cuccinelli, the former Virginia Attorney General, who is a favorite among conservative activists and who fits the profile that Mr. Trump wants the next Homeland Secretary to have, people familiar with the discussions said. Ms. Nielsen had been pressured by Mr. Trump to be more aggressive in stemming the influx at the border, people familiar with their discussions in recent months said. Her entire time in the job was spent batting back suspicion from the president, even as he told people he liked how she performed on television and enjoyed dealing with her personally. The president called Ms. Nielsen at home early in the mornings to demand that she take action to stop migrants from entering the country, including doing things that were clearly illegal, such as blocking all migrants from seeking asylum. Those responses only infuriated Mr. Trump further. The president's fury. In a cabinet meeting surrounded by her peers, Mr. Trump castigated her repeatedly, leading her to draft a resignation letter and to tell colleagues that there was no reason for her to lead the department any longer. By the end of the week, Mr. Trump and Stephen Miller, the president's top immigration advisor, have privately but regularly complained about Ms. Nielsen. Lou Dobbs, Ms. Nielsen lost a powerful protector when Mr. Kelly, her mentor, left his job as White House Chief of Staff at the beginning of the year. Mr. Kelly multiple White House officials said she had grown deeply paranoid in recent months, after numerous stories about her job being on the line. She also had in early 2019, as the number of migrant families from Central American countries surged, the president's fury at Ms. Nielsen did, too. He repeatedly one day after Ms. Nielsen traveled to Honduras to sign a regional compact with officials from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, Mr. Trump for the countries. And in recent days, still, Ms. Nielsen embraced the president's crisis language as apprehensions of migrants at the border shot up to thousands per day. On Friday, while the number of border crossings is not as high as the demographic of migrants has shifted largely from individual Mexicans looking for jobs who could easily be deported to Central American families, overwhelming detention facilities and prompting mass releases of migrants into cities along the border. Ms. Nielsen estimated last month that border officials had stopped as many as 100,000 migrants in March. But despite the trip and several stories about how much better her relationship with Mr. Trump was, Ms. Nielsen never learned how to manage him, people familiar with their discussions said. He often felt and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was not an admirer of Ms. Nielsen, several administration officials said. That came to a head. While Mr. Trump often blamed Ms. Nielsen for the surge in migrant crossings, she will be remembered for leading the department during the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy along the southwestern border, which initially resulted in the separation of thousands of migrant children from their families. An intense backlash ensued, and the Department of Homeland Security was unprepared to deal with separating nearly 3,000 children from their parents. Hampered by misstep after misstep, Kirstjen Nielsen's tenure at the Department of Homeland Security was a disaster from the start, said Representative Benny Thompson, a Mississippi Democrat and the chairman of the House's Committee on Homeland Security. It is clearer now, Mr. Trump eventually moved to halt the family separations, though the government struggled in some cases to reunite those it had already separated. By naming Mr. McAleenan acting secretary, Mr. Trump is installing another veteran of previous administrations, not a loyal foot soldier of Mr. Trump's campaign. Married to a Salvadoran immigrant, Mr. McAleenan is a lawyer who wrote an honors thesis at Amherst College on marriage equality and applied at the FBI after the September 11 attacks. Described by colleagues as a savvy political operator, Mr. McAleenan worked cooperatively with Obama administration officials but later embraced Mr. Trump's agenda, which included unshackling Border Patrol agents from restrictions that the previous administration had imposed. Mr. McAleenan was also one of 3 Department of Homeland Security officials who had urged Ms. Nielsen to sign the memo authorizing the routine separation of migrant families at the border. The department, which has a budget of more than $40 billion and more than 240,000 employees, is an amalgam of 22 government agencies that was created after the September 11 terrorist attacks. It is responsible. At 46, Ms. Nielsen was the youngest person to lead the sprawling department, and an unlikely choice for the job. In the months immediately after the September 11 attacks, she helped set up the Transportation Security Administration, now an agency within the department. She also worked when Mr. Trump moved Mr. Kelly to the White House in July 2017. Ms. Nielsen moved with him. As the principal, Mr. Kelly later backed Ms. Nielsen to succeed him at the Homeland Security Department, though she was criticized as too inexperienced for the job by Democrats and anti-immigration groups. Mr. Trump, there will be no on-the-job training for Kirstjen, Mr. Trump said in October 2017, announcing her nomination for the post. But by the following spring, Ms. Nielsen was telling associates she was miserable in the job. Get politics and Washington news updates via #. Maggie Haberman reported from New York, and Michael D. Shear from San Diego. Annie Carney and No.